Hey folks, I just have to share an experience I had with a buyer yesterday, um, because it's funny to relate now, but at the time I was thinking to myself, what is going on here? Uh, what happened is I had this kid approach me about an electric acoustic guitar that I was selling for $180. I thought it was a great deal. The guitar sells for $379 new on Amazon. This was a brand new model. I did a full setup and put a gig bag with it. The kid hit me up and said, would you do it for $150? I could tell I was dealing with a kid during the process of communicating with him. You know, it was just obvious he was a youngster. And I have a soft spot for dealing with kids who are just starting out. Maybe it's a weakness, I don't know, but I tend to give kids that are looking for a guitar a little bit of a break if I can. I like these guitars, particularly these entry-level guitars that I have, or the entry-level solid tops, just the nicer, let's say $150, $200, $250 guitars, to get in the hands of people who want to learn and have something good to learn on. It's always been one of my goals, really, to be able to provide nice instruments to people that want to start playing, or people that want to go from a beginning guitar to a nicer second guitar. So I try to work with younger folks when I can. You know, I am by two or three colleges, so I often get college students who are quite poor looking for guitars, and I do what I can to help them out. So I knew it was a kid. I'm like, okay, I'll do it for you. It was a bit lower than I wanted to sell the guitar, but not much, $10 lower than my bottom line, so I just decided to let it go. So we set up a time, and they show up, and the kid comes to the door. He says, he looks at the guitar, he really likes it, he sees it's a deal, and he says, you're still going to do this for $150? I said, look, I gave you my word, I'm not going to go back on it. Yeah, you get it for $150. He goes, cool. He seemed really happy. And then the conversation stopped, and I realized that he was waiting for someone to join him, that he wasn't going to be the person that paid for the guitar, so he had an adult with him or a parent or something. So in shuffles this old man, and the old man doesn't say much. I don't even know if he spoke English. I don't think that really matters to the story. It could have been anyone, but it turns out the guy's the kid's grandparent. He's paying for it. So I show him the guitar, and he doesn't look very pleased. And he pulls $100 bill out of his wallet, and he motions towards me, and I said, well, the guitar's $150. We already agreed on a price. And he just keeps holding out the $100 bill, and I'm like, what's going on? Does he not understand what I'm saying? So I said to the kid, tell him it's 100. The guitar's 180, and we agreed a deal for 150. So he says something to his grandfather in Spanish, and his grandfather just stands there with the $100 bill. So I start showing the guy the guitar low. I said, this is a solid spruce top guitar. I went through all of the accoutrements. I showed him how it was electric and acoustic, and how good the electronics were with the phase. It was a Fishman deal. And the old man just keeps staring at me, and then he looks down at the guitar and he goes, it's old. And I said, no, it's not old. It's actually brand new. It's never had another owner. I said, there's not a mark on it. In fact, the pick guard still had the plastic on it. So it looked absolutely brand new. It was brand new. I bought it brand new and just did a setup on it. So essentially it was a brand new, better than a brand new guitar, because if you order a guitar off Amazon or another online seller, they just drop ship it from a factory with a factory setup, and usually you have to do work on it. This one I'd gone through and done my 1 to 2 hour setup, so it was just perfect. So the kid sighs and shows his displeasure, and then he shakes his head and goes out of the house. And I'm thinking, what's going on? The old man's still standing there with the $100 in his hand. And while the kid's gone, I said, you don't like the guitar? And not knowing if he understood what I was saying, and he says, 120. I said, look, we already agreed on the price. I'm already giving you a $30 discount on the guitar. I can't sell it for 120. 150 is lower than my lowest. I said, I am losing money if I sell it for any lower than that. I shouldn't even be selling it for 150 actually, but I want to give the kid a break. He really likes the guitar. And so I know the guy's got more money in his wallet, now he said that. So after we stood there at this impasse for a while, he says, maybe next time. And I said, what do you mean maybe next time? He says, maybe next time. I said, you mean you'll come back another time? And he says, yeah. And I said, look, if you don't buy this guitar, somebody else is going to. It's not going to be here much longer. I've got 2 other people asking me about this guitar. I set up an appointment with your grandson, and we agreed on a price, and I'm giving him a deal. If you're reneging on that deal, then it'll go to someone else. This is a great guitar. It's brand new. You're already getting a bargain on it. Solid Sitka top guitar with Fishman Electronics, brand new with a case. So he stood there for a while, and then the kid comes back in, followed by his grandmother. And his grandma's this big matronly lady, and she comes in, and I show her the guitar, and I play it for her, and she goes, oh, that's beautiful. And I said, yeah, and I go back through the specs and everything. And she says something to the old man, and he gets his wallet out and starts rifling through his other bills. I can't quite see what they are, but he's obviously got money in his wallet. And but he's still got the 20 out, so I figure he's going to just try and pay me he's got the 100 out, so I figure he was just going to try and pay me 120, right? And then the kid started talking to his grandmother, and I heard him, I understand a little bit of Spanish, and I heard him trying to tell her that it's new, and that the guitar had plastic on the pickguard. I heard him say plastico or something to that effect. And meanwhile, I'm just playing I just start playing the guitar. I figured the sale's gone at this point. I'm not buckling. I'm not going to be intimidated to lower my price way lower than the cost. I'm not going to lose money. After I had agreed to sell it at a lower price than I wanted to help this kid out. So the grandmother started talking again to the old man. And then he finally shrugs, goes into his wallet, pulls out another 50, and hands it to me. And this is about after a 20-minute standoff. So he hands me the 150. I pack up the guitar. I give it to him. I go to shake his hand, and he seems surprised because I like to shake people's hand after a sale. It just seems to be the thing to do. You've made an arrangement with someone. They've looked at a guitar, they like it, they see that it works, they see that it plays, they see that everything functions. This is not retail, this is a Craigslist sale. They like the guitar, and you agree on the transaction, and you shake hands, and they walk away with the guitar. He seemed surprised, but he did shake my hand, and I look at the grandmother, and she's over there just shaking her head like this, and the kid's just like, finally. And I suppose this is something that he's used to with his grandfather. And so when they left, I'm standing there trying to process everything that had gone on, and I realized that the old man had just tried to pull a grift on me, and maybe it works. Another thing I neglected to tell you is while we were standing alone, he said, this is somebody who didn't appear to understand English, but then suddenly was able to speak a few words. He said just came from the hospital, dialysis. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear." And I looked at his arm, and I could see a little blood stain over his sleeve. And I said, "Yeah, that's terrible. That's your liver, right?" I got it wrong. He said, "Kidney." Oh, I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I hope you feel better." And I was thinking about trying to associate with his condition by telling him about my wife's 3-year cancer battle and how we went, had to go to chemotherapy all the time for 3 years. We went through this. This was before I would have started this channel 2 or 3 years before I did, but we went through a horrendous health battle, which she finally won, thankfully. Just to be able to show empathy and say, yeah, I've kind of been through the same thing. I've also gone through with now 2 sets of parents, various ailments, and dealing with health issues. You know how it is when you're faced with that. You want to be able to show empathy and consideration for people. So I said, yeah, I hope you feel better, and I didn't think of anything at the time, but now I realize it was part of his tactics. He wanted to generate sympathy, and meanwhile he's standing there with a $100 bill for a $150 guitar. And now I realize that this was all part of his play. And when he left, I couldn't be angry at him. I'm like, yeah, he just tried to grift me. He just tried to work me. But I stood firm because I was already giving them beyond the best deal that I could give them. And then when he did get the extra 50 out, he had another wad of bills in there. Now, of course, that doesn't mean he's well off. That doesn't mean that he can afford the guitar. It's probably still, a financial burden to pay for this for his kid. And I feel bad, but I can't give away guitars. I can't. This is something I do to supplement a very poor teaching income with no benefits. So this is part of my income. It's akin to you going to a retail shop and saying, "Look, I can't afford these pair of tennis shoes. Can I give you $10 for them?" They're not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. Or if you go to a barber shop and say, that looks good. I like the trim you did, but I'm, kind of struggling. Can I just give you half? It's just not acceptable. And for me, these transactions are similar to that. I mean, you work out a price. A lot of times I'm selling stuff very close to the margin or at cost, particularly when I'm trying to work with young folks. So I was doing the best I could. But this guy was trying to get basically a $200 guitar for $100, and I just I held my ground because I had other people interested in the guitar. It's always a pain when people show up and you don't have a sale. At the same time, I felt sorry for this kid because he was trying to push his grandfather along, but his grandfather has this ritual where he obviously tries to work people and use his age and infirmity or whatever he can, his lack of English, to try and get you to accept a lower deal and perhaps hamstring yourself in the process. Anyway, the fact that it was a Hispanic family, I don't think has anything to do with it. I don't want to make an issue of that at all, because I sell a lot to the Hispanic community, African American community, all different folks, types of people, families, older people, young kids, and you get these shenanigans with all of them. So I'm not associating it with any particular minority group at all. I don't want this video to become like that. I just think this was an old guy, a grizzled old guy that had been around the block, that had a system, and he was using it on me and to see if it would work. And then eventually, when he realized that it wasn't getting anywhere, he just pulled out the 50, handed it to me, and just took off. I just wanted to relate that to you, to see if you have had any similar situations. that you can relate, and what you think about all that when people do that sort of stuff. A lot of times I'll be angry, but in this particular instance, I think the age of the man, because I'm dealing with my dad who's about that age and having issues. I couldn't be angry with him. In fact, almost admired him for trying, but at the same time, it is sort of dishonest, to show up after somebody's agreed to give you a deal, and do it for that much money. I mean, if he was trying to get $20 more or $10 more off the deal, I could see it. But basically, he's trying to pay me a third less after we'd already negotiated. A lot of you are going to say that's bullshit, and you should just. There's nothing good to see in that scenario. But I'm a people person, and I realize people are struggling, and everybody tries to get a deal. It's not the ideal situation, but it's what it is. So I thought I'd relate it to you and see what your feedback would be. This has gone on far too long. All right, folks. See you next time.